no tax.
Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C., calling your kind attention once again to ProgressivePress.com. ProgressivePress.com, coming soon, the real Pearl Harbor conspiracies, featuring such figures as Stimson, McCloy, Lovett, Marshall, and Bundy, names, of course, that are synonymous with the Eastern Anglophile financier Wall Street establishment, which led the United States to so many disasters in the post-war world. It was their control of the War Department and then the Pentagon that became the base of power of this group, and they got themselves into the Roosevelt administration through blackmail, saying, well, if you don't let us Republican Wall Street guys into the government, then maybe we'll sabotage the war against the Axis. So that's what they did. And Roosevelt did what he could, and he had a plan to take care of these guys at the end of the war. But unfortunately, they struck first with most likely a anti-communist Russian painter who seems to have played the key role. And we'll talk about that network in coming weeks. But now, this is a watershed. The British have shown their true colors once again. They never were part of Europe. They never wanted to be. And, of course, we're talking about the City of London because that's who Cameron represents. Cameron and this government that he's got, they don't represent British workers. They don't represent the working people of the United Kingdom by any stretch. As he says, the interests of the City of London and their financial services, meaning speculation and parasitism, he says those are British national interests. Hang on. What about the workshop of the world? What about some kind of industry? What about some kind of production, right? The kind of export industry that you can still find in Germany and in Italy and France to some extent. The British have basically lost out on this. Where is the production? There's only the financial services. Now, a country that relies exclusively on financial services as we go into this world panic deeper and deeper, such a country is doomed and really ought to grab on to the European Union as at least a means of staying afloat in the tempest, right? Stay part of the convoy, as I've tried to say in previous weeks, but not the crazed City of London group that tells Cameron what to do. Remember, the City of London is responsible for the world gasoline price. There's a lot of the derivative speculation that's actually run through London. And the gas price that you have paid is part of it. The run-up in the food prices around the world, there are a lot of the staples, cocoa and things like that, where the main market is London. They drive it up using derivatives. When we look at Corzine, MF Global, the $600 to $700 million stolen, where did that happen? A lot of that happened through London. It went via London. AIG, who sold $3 trillion of derivatives? Well, it was the AIG London affiliate because that's where you could do it more easily because the regulatory regime is so pathetic. A lot of the crimes of Lehman went through London, and this is actually one of the reasons that Lehman became so serious, was that there was an international dimension to this which was somewhat beyond the reach of U.S. regulators. Remember, the British said that Barclays Bank was going to buy Lehman Brothers until the last minute, and then they pulled the rug out from under. Perfide Albion, treachery, as always. But again, the other question, from inside Britain, it's a different view. From inside Britain, the question is, what about the workers? You can't do this. What about the workers? What are these regulations that are so bad? Well, they're things like, child labor laws, minimum wage, things like this. Oh, no, the British don't like that. They love the free market. And above all, the Euro Tobin, because it's clear that the initiative coming now from the Commission, coming also from Sarkozy, Merkel, and just about everybody else, they're saying that the argument they make, not me, but them, they say in the time when everybody's being asked for sacrifices, we want a small tax on financial turnover. And the British say, no, never, never. And that's what they're fighting. And I call the attention, call people's attention to this. Those people who have tried to argue that the Tobin tax, the Wall Street sales tax, the City of London sales tax, the tax on financial turnover, financial transaction tax, turnover tax, trading tax, whatever you want to call it, Robin Hood tax, people who say that's a globalist evil gambit are really arguing that financial speculators should be immune from taxation. That's what you're saying. You're trying to say that we have a new aristocracy, like the French aristocracy before 1789, who had this rare privilege of not being taxed. So today, under so-called democratic conditions in the 21st century, we're supposed to say, if you're a speculative parasite, a hedge fund hyena, a lamprey, a leech, then we want to subsidize you and privilege you. You don't pay taxes. So I'd like to hear an answer to that from the people who have said, oh, the Tobin tax, the Euro Tobin, the Wall Street sales tax, City of London sales tax, that's something the globalists want. No, I'm sorry. Take a look at what's going on right in front of your eyes. Obviously, we're dealing with greater and lesser evils, but in this case, the London side is the greater evil. Now, there's also some question about what's going to happen to some of these Anglo-zombies, right? The Anglo-zombies, the British zombie banks, they are in bad shape, and it's a little bit like, Austria in the 1930s. It's a huge banking sector with a very, very narrow base. And what Cameron wanted, he basically said, I'm going to get the right to speculate on the euro, and I'm going to have my tentacles into the euro land, but I'm going to stay outside of it and be immune to your regulation forever. And it's just unacceptable. Now, having condemned them, and I would urge British working people, bring down this government, right? Bring down Cameron, bring down Osborne, but don't sell yourself to Miliband, because this is obviously the other cheek of the devil. You've got to have a class-conscious program. You've got to have a working class, working people's program of reforms, and I've given this. You can take a look at my website. It involves the nationalization of the Bank of England and the emission of about £1 trillion of 0% credits. It's a lot of money. The British infrastructure would have to be almost completely rebuilt, and we would look to Britain to bring along various British dependencies, smaller Commonwealth countries in the Caribbean, in South America, and in various parts of Africa. Like, who's gonna take over the development of Uganda? Say, who's going to do that? Right? Are they going to be able to operate financially? Obviously not. So there's a place where the nationalized Bank of England could generate credit also for places in Africa. Now, of course, the other side, what are the problems on the other side? The Sarkozy-Merkel side, they have severe problems. First of all, the idea of the austerity corset, right? We've seen this before, that you're going to have mandatory rules on budgeting. You're going to assert some kind of centralized draconian control on deficits. This is completely wrong. This is completely counterproductive. You can't do it. We've seen it. Graham Rudman Hollings from the 1980s here in the United States was an attempt to do this. It was called the planned train wreck. It didn't work. The Maastricht Treaty had a corset built in, right? So now they're saying the Maastricht corset was not tight enough. We're going to make this into a real straitjacket, and we're going to impose it, and there are going to be monetary penalties. This is crazy. What kind of a political entity kicks people out if you go bankrupt? It's like saying, if in the United States, if you have to go through personal bankruptcy, you should lose your citizenship and be deported. Or if a state or a city goes bankrupt, they should be expelled. Like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, should now cease to be a part of the United States and should be an open city, right? It should be up for grabs. No. So we reject the logic of savage, brutal, killer, genocidal austerity. Stop the austerity, Merkozy, and we'll be back in a minute.